What I learned on guitar in which order. This is beginner video number 6. Hello and welcome to another one with me, Elmo. It's good to have you along. Yes, in the last one I discussed the ladder and I got a very good comment asking basically what do you fill the ladder with, the ladder being small goals. And it's a difficult one because actually it's impossible because you all have different interests and so on. So I'm going to talk about today what I did in which order, roughly. I mean, it's a huge amount of time ago because I'm ancient. No, but memory is vague, but I do have a rough idea of what I did. And I'm going to do another video later on with good beginner songs that you can basically fill the ladder with to teach different techniques. And I'm also going to probably at some point do a kind of video with an overview of different techniques. So let's start at the beginning. I started with a teacher who was very well-meaning, but he didn't really teach me the stuff that I wanted to learn. But gave me some basics. And some of those basics, I mean, it's a long time ago, so I can't say for certain, but I do remember there being sight reading involved. And for me, that's not really a basic. I mean, I still don't know how to sight read properly. And I was not interested. The thing that I start off new students with is what I taught in the first video of this series. If you haven't seen that, go back and watch that. But it's Peter Gunn theme. That thing. And that's what I would start students off with. Then there were some chords. Basic stuff like E, A, D. With those chords you could do Back in Black, you could do Magic by Coldplay. Those are two perfectly good songs to learn. Just do them slow. And one thing I would recommend when you do chords is that you have one finger that you always put down first. So for me, it's often the bass note or the index finger. So in terms of E, I've somehow gone naturally to putting down the index finger first, and then the rest just kind of falls into place. But try to do it in the same order every time as much as possible. It might not always be possible, but as much as possible, because that will build muscle memory and it'll make things easier in the long run. So I remember there being chords, and yeah, still I wasn't probably too interested. I remember there being chords because I remember being absolutely frustrated by them. Then there was the pentatonic scale. That's number 3. Just that, the regular minor pentatonic box thing. And no idea of what to do with it. Some people get really frustrated by this and think that they have to, they might not think it, but feel like, what's the point of it? I don't know what to do with it. Well, it's like getting a hammer. Let's say you get a hammer, but you don't have anything to hammer it with. Don't throw away the hammer. You don't say, I don't want the hammer. Okay? Maybe not the best analogy, but you get what I mean. Sometimes you have to learn stuff that you don't know what to do with until later on. Although in an ideal world, that would not be the case. Yes, and then I remember this. This was something that my teacher, my first teacher, even though he wasn't always, let's say he didn't know what to do with me, this is something he taught me, and this was the first thing that really got my interest up. Dreaming by Yngwie Malmsteen. Now, it can be something else, like it's a bit more difficult, but still. Yeah, but anyway, some kind of arpeggiated stuff. Arpeggios are when you play chords, but you play one note at a time. So A minor is, and you can play it as an arpeggio. something like that. But that was what I did. That was a big project for me, Learning Dreaming by Yngwie Malmsteen. It was definitely not easy. But here's the thing. You don't always have to go where the bar is lowest. You have to go where your interest is highest. And that's a balancing act, of course. But you don't want to go, yeah, that's easy stuff. But I'm not interested in that. If you want something else, do that. If you don't know what you want, spend a bit of time doing some research. Then I changed teachers, and my new teacher asked me what you want to play, and that was a huge revelation for me. That's when things really picked up. And I said I want to play Gary Moore, and Yngwie Malmsteen, and he said, I think I said Gary Moore first, and he said, okay, then let's do these two things. First off, that was one thing, and it's just a finger exercise. Down, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can do different variations of it. And then he taught me bends and vibrato. Absolutely essential if you want to play like Gary Moore. And combining the two. He also taught me how to do something with the pentatonic scale that I already knew, the thing I mentioned earlier. He gave me a couple of licks at least. I seem to remember at least this. I'll do it slow and you can pick it up by ear, hopefully. And that's another thing. The earlier you start training your ear, the better. That's a perfectly valid musical statement. And you can pick every note if you want. I do some pulling off there. I think another one was... Again, you can do it slowly. Yeah. After that, we went on to modes. So I think someone had taught me, it was either my first or my second teacher who had taught me the C major scale. But my second teacher had me draw out all the notes of the C major scale on a guitar neck on a piece of paper. I have that piece of paper somewhere still. And then C was C major or Ionian, and then you had Dorian, Phrygian, and so on. Now we're getting into territory that's not beginner friendly, but at this point I wasn't a beginner anymore. I was getting into the intermediate thing, and that's the thing. We go back, take a step back. What were the songs that I learned around about these times? I remember a few. One was Pride and Joy by Stevie Ray Vaughan. Let me turn off my delay. Another one was Hey Joe by Hendrix. Now this has the great thing of it having all the basic major chords: C, G, D, A, and E. So you get to practice that. There's even a standard tuning version of it on YouTube that you can play along to. You don't have to do all the fills, you can just do the chords. You can do the fills if you want to. Then there's this bit. I'm sure you can find tabs to this online. That was one. And then there was, and this I'm certain of, that I played during my first gig. I played this and For the Love of God by Steve Vai. And I've learned this wrong, I'm pretty sure of that. But it's Sunshine of Your Love. A few things going on there. So I have a power chord. You can just do it with power chords. Like that. I do it with the added third here. So you have a major chord. Then you have this. And a double stop. A double stop is when you play two strings at once. That, where I add a bit of vibrato and basic skills. And then there's, then it goes to and then you have the chorus. Which these days I would play with my thumb over the neck because I don't like bar chords. That's where I just mute the A string. So I touch it a bit with my index finger and thumb. Way easier way of playing bar chords if you have hands that are big enough. Unless you have a classical guitar, then it's a pain. So yeah, those were some of the songs that I learned during this period. But then again, you don't have to be scared about learning something that's too difficult. I remember trying to learn The Loner. Before I learned Hey Joe or any of that stuff, I tried to pick it up by ear and failed miserably. I also tried to learn The Seventh Sign by Yngwie Malmsteen at one point. Something wrong with my foot switch on the riverside. And yeah, so learn what, it's all good, even if you fail. Don't be afraid of failing. Then I spent ages with the song For the Love of God, which was I've forgotten most of it now. That kind of, there was a lot going on at this point that unlocked certain things in terms of scales and modes for me. And, but then I started going into Yngwie Malmsteen, the REH thing by Yngwie Malmsteen, the old instructional video. That's where I learned a lot of licks, and it opened up my eyes to licks. But then there was blues, a whole lot of blues. Steve Ray Vaughan, Jimi Hendrix were a couple of names. And then I started improvising. Well, these kind of overlap. And I did a lot of ear training. And the final piece of the puzzle was playing live without, like, not stuff that we had rehearsed. So I was called in as a hired hand to play stuff that I'd never played and without any sheet music. I played stuff with sheet music, chord charts, before, but then I was in a few situations where they didn't have any, so I just went along by ear, and that was really useful. There's a way you can do that, which is just turn on the radio and start learning songs by ear, or from Spotify. Maybe easier from Spotify, or Tidal, because they pay their artists more, I've understood. But yeah, that's kind of what I did in certain order. There was the Steve Vai 30-hour guitar exercise thing that I had a look at. I kind of followed my interests, and my second teacher gave me the tools to follow those interests. If you're unsure what you should be practicing, have a look at who your favorites are and try to break down that into smaller bits and do the easier stuff first. So if you're listening to, I don't know, Chuck Berry, this might be easier. Then all the... I don't know how that thing goes. Something like that. And there's a tip for you if you want to learn how to bend. You can do this. That way the bend doesn't have to hit the notes exactly. You avoid a bit of frustration, but I've talked about that elsewhere. Yes, so that was roughly the stuff that I learned in roughly that order. I'm gonna do more of these kinds of videos and maybe some suggestions. Personally, I don't think there is one way to do it. I mean, there are videos that say this is the way to do it, and I don't think that... I mean, there are good suggestions, I would say, but it's all individual. If you enjoyed this and haven't watched all the episodes, there's a playlist here with all of the episodes of this beginner series. If you want to support the channel, I do hope that you do consider. You can leave me a super thanks or buy me a coffee. There's a link in the description to buy me a coffee. But other than that, I hope you had some use of this. Take care. See you. Goodbye.